Yeah, Condemned is really good. Zeit Eyes Wide Shut. Do you know what that one's about?
Of course, I love that movie.
That movie's great, but it's not my cup of tea.
No,
No, I mean it's just too slow for me. I like it, but I wouldn't watch it a lot. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of movies that I would watch a lot, but that's not one of them.
yeah, I mean that's okay. I don't watch Shawshank Redemption a lot.
I wouldn't watch
That's
that a
my
lot
favorite
either
movie
for the
still.
exact same reason.
Great movie though.
It's an
My favorite.
amazing movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. But if somebody told me to watch that movie on repeat for like a couple days, I would
Nobody's
probably
asking
want
you
to
to do that.
die.
No one's gonna. No one's asking you to do that. At least rewatch it like every couple of years.
Well, of course, yeah. Same with like Forrest Gump. There's like a lot of movies that you should like rewatch every few years that are just really good.
There's nothing wrong with not watching a movie multiple times within 3 days.
I know I talked about how I watch them 10 times in a row, remember?
Yeah, that's too much.
That's true. That's a hard truth right there about my movie watching habits. All right, so and that was a hard truth, and let's get into some more hard truths today.
Can we cover those? Can we go over the anonymous knuckleheads?
Yeah, let's talk about them.
They released that video. They're always stirring the pot, always trying to cause problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know shit.
No, they've never been right about anything, Anonymous. They don't know anything apparently. You know, they're just always trying to trigger people into thinking that we're gonna have like some kind of attacks or
They're always just like chirping in the background,
they're
and
always chirping.
it's like a grasshopper, like an annoying bird. You just ignore it, go about your day.
Yeah, nothing ever comes of when Anonymous says anything. It's just comes and goes. And you know, there are rare occasions where they say things, and you know, it truly is you know measured by the current event. But you know, if that ever does happen, just you know, block that thought out of your head. Obviously,
And they're like talking about like one of our allies attacking us, and when has that ever happened?
oh, I know our allies never attack us ever. I mean, really, what?
When has that ever happened? We're allies for a reason.
Yeah, and they wouldn't
Would we be
attack us.
allies with somebody who's attacking us? That's
Well,
insane.
yeah. Yeah, if anything, we attack our allies. That's how it goes typically. Like we go after our allies before they have a chance to even touch us.
Yeah, keep them in their place so they know like you can't fuck with us. This is like
Exactly.
this is a pretty one-sided transaction, but
Exactly.
they're
They
okay
kind of
with
look
that.
at exactly. They kind of look at it like remember how you said remember what you said the last Hard Truths episode about how about how it's better to have a hand on the leash than on the whip.
Yeah, I liked that. I don't know where that came from, but I liked it.
That was great. That's pretty much describes all of our allies, how they view us. Well, pretty much up until this year.
Yeah,
Drugs made in a lab are automatically better than any drugs made outside of a lab. We kind of covered this just a tiny bit.
like we were talking about with food, like
Exactly.
the experts know how things are supposed to taste. Like they in a lab perfected this food. They're doing the same thing with drugs. Like they're
Exactly.
testing it over and over again. They're testing it on thousands upon thousands of animals. So many animal deaths just to get the perfect drug. So like how am I not going to trust that?
So many monkeys and dogs and cats and all these different animals that are being tested on every single day so that you can feel slightly happier.
Yeah, we even tested on other people. Sometimes that doesn't go great, but we work past that, perfect it to the point where we're not bothering anybody. We're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, and at one point the government even tried to test out like all of these natural drugs on people and it went nowhere. They would just like supposedly they would just like grab these random people off the streets and try them out on them and they probably told them that they were giving it to them. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, of course. But it really what it came down to is that they realized that all LSD and mushrooms and weed and all of these things were just pointless and just really just made people think more. And at that point, people are already thinking too much. So why do why do they have to think even more? Yeah, it'll make you go crazy if you take stuff like acid. I mean, it's been shown it'll make you jump out of windows. It'll make you see flying bats and try to swat them with flying fly swatters.
It'll make you hurt other people.
Yeah, it'll make you go literally crazy. It'll make you just running in the street naked and stripping all your clothes off because they feel like they're on fire. There's so many different things that could happen to you while you're tripping, and then you're just stuck in that same feeling forever.
Yep, and the one everybody knows is that if you do acid, it's gonna get stuck in your spinal cord.
Yeah, one day when you're 60, you're just gonna like crack your back, and all of a sudden you're gonna start seeing like bats again, and you're just gonna start flying them and swatting them in the office.
Yeah,
when you're working your everyday job.
Very busy, and you don't want that happening.
You're gonna probably be
ruin
very
your
busy.
workflow. You don't want it ruining your workflow.
You're just mowing the lawn on your day off. All of a sudden, you just like you crack your back, and then boom, you're just like transported to another dimension.
And you're drawing an alien in your lawn.
You're drawing an alien. You just suddenly start making crop circles.
Yeah.
That's really what all the crop circles are from. Is they're just people that like have cracked their back while taking, while doing their normal, lawn mowing.
Well, now that you mention it, I think we should say that like crop circles are all made by people. It's kind of funny. Even we like to play around with it and say like, oh, aliens, but
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. It's always people every single time. Doesn't matter what it is. It's always people. Even the really intricate ones, like there was one in the UK that was like literally had a binary message written on it. I mean, that had to have been humans. Like, why would aliens know binary?
Yeah, I mean, pretty simple form of communication.
It was made by us, though. Like, we created binary.
Yeah, I think. Wouldn't you think an alien's language be, much more advanced than that?
Well, exactly. They wouldn't call it binary.
Yeah, and if they wanted to talk to us, why? They know binary, but they don't know English.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, they would tell like the UK people, like chip chip cheerio, like we're here to invade you, or take me to your leader. I don't know any other British isms. Chip chip cheerio, take me to your leader.
Let's grab a pint.
Let's grab a pint with the Queen. We're from Andromeda. I'm doing I'm not even doing a British accent. I'm just doing the British sayings. Yeah, literally, and that brings up another point too, is that aliens don't exist. We are it. There's no other important life in the universe. We are the only things that are important on the planet, on the universe. And when I say on the universe, I just mean in the known universe, because there's really nothing else out there.
You don't really know.
You don't really know, but we know that there's really no aliens, right? There's no aliens.
Not on the planet, no. That's insane.
No, there's no aliens out there either. There can't be, because we are the only important things in existence. But yeah, aliens don't exist whatsoever. And extra dimensional entities don't exist. I mean, we talked about how ghosts don't exist. We kind of said that real quick about how ghosts don't exist, but truly, there's no such thing as ghosts. If you experience a ghost,
honestly, I mean, if we really want to go there, I mean, hey, angels and demons might be real.
No, those don't exist either, unless the state-sponsored religion suggests that angels and demons exist.
So now, what that is that like there have been multiple CIA agents that have come out and said that like things like angels and demons exist.
Yeah, but then other ones said that they don't, so they don't. Yeah, so aliens don't exist, and ghosts don't exist as well. You should know that there's no such thing as ghosts, and there's never been any proven evidence of ghosts, angels, or demons or anything. The government wants you to know that.
Yeah, I mean, but there is stuff in the Bible that's pretty compelling, you know?
Yeah. And the government does love the Bible, so you should read the Bible and you should devour everything from it and gather whatever you can from it and utilize that in your life, including any knowledge about angels and demons or what have you. But
Yeah.
remember, they don't exist.
I mean, honestly, there's been some new reporting, and it looks like it might be angels and demons.
Well, of course, but, they don't exist. The government wants you to know that they've seen angels and demons, but they also want you to know that they don't exist. Egyptians were, going in, off of the alien thing, Egyptians were just really good at geometry. There was nothing else about it. They just really liked geometry a
They
lot.
had a lot of slaves.
That was also it.
They probably had the most slaves in history.
They did. There was really nothing to like the whole alien thing. People say that they use like advanced technology or the Anunnaki helped them. It was really just all slave labor. And really what it was is they were really good at geometry.
Yeah, and honestly, like, didn't you learn about this in like elementary school?
Elementary, middle school, they pretty much taught you all this shit. Some people have been talking about how Ghislaine Maxwell was probably Maxwell Hill, who, if anyone doesn't know,
Who's Maxwell Hill?
exactly, Maxwell Hill is the number one Redditor on Reddit.com, who is famous for being like one of the OG Redditors of all time, and suspiciously posted a lot of weird, kind of almost, pedo kind of shit every so often.
But there's weirdos everywhere,
Well, of course, there's totally weirdos everywhere, and it's also not
What are we
suspicious at
gonna do?
all.
Catch all of them?
Well, yeah, no,
How?
of
What
course,
are we gonna do? Try to stop a bunch of these people?
yeah.
How would we do that?
It's not suspicious either that the account, it was linked to a an Amazon account that that had actually a book review on the exact book that she was reading the day that she was, last photographed right before she got arrested. Another really interesting thing is that this account stopped posting at the exact same time that she got arrested. So like the account no longer like posts anything after she got arrested. But it could literally be anybody. It could be literally anybody in the world. And what's kind of interesting is that, her name is Ghislaine Maxwell and the name of the Reddit account was Maxwell Hill. And where she comes from is actually called like something Hillshire Estate or something like that. So
I
it,
mean, she was doing stuff like that on her Reddit account. Why would she put that as her name?
well, yeah, no, she wouldn't. That's the point. Is this wasn't her. This is
Her name's
all just
probably like really cool, mysterious woman or something like that.
yeah on Reddit
93.
or like married to tax evader Robert Maxwell forever. So Ghislaine Maxwell was not Maxwell Hill. It was not that Reddit account that famously went offline at the exact same time, said a lot of weird shit, and might have had really weird, subtle connections to Ghislaine Maxwell. Another one is that sobriety is bullshit, and you should eat. We kind of went over this all together on the last one, but just you should not abstain from anything. You should, indulge in every possible vice that you can think of, down from like, just the very candy that you see and that just glazes over in your head, right up to like gambling addictions, just trying different drugs out and seeing where it goes. If your doctor tells you that you should take drugs, then you most definitely should take drugs. I mean, he's a doctor. Why would he tell you to take drugs otherwise? He's only looking out for you. It's a lot of people act like these doctors get paid by drug companies in order to try to find clients to test out and take a lot of these drugs, and that they get like, all kinds of like, really good benefits and, just from like taking all these drugs and giving them to more and more people, meeting like almost a certain quota. But really, that doesn't happen. People really just need to get that out of their heads. Really, the doctors are always looking out for you, and you should always just rely on them for your own health. If they say anything that needs to be done, I mean, you should most definitely always listen to them, but always remember, if you feel a certain way too, always go with your gut, because sometimes, you should know that you know best at the end of the day. But again, try to listen to your doctors about everything. If they tell you you should be on any kind of medication whatsoever, then you should probably be on it. I mean, that's an interesting one right there. But if they tell you you should be on if they tell you your kid should be on an ADHD medication, or if they tell you that you should be like taking a stimulant or like an antidepressant or anything like this, maybe you shouldn't change your lifestyle. Maybe what you should do is just take this drug and just say fuck it and just go for it.
Honestly, if a doctor tries to prescribe you some like herbs or some shit out of like his garden, you should run.
Oh, dude, remember, herbs are dirty, crystals are dirty, they come from the ground, rocks, they're all dirty, they all have viruses. But anyways, but yeah, sobriety is bullshit. You shouldn't get prescribed anything by a doctor or anything like that. I mean, well, no, you should only get prescribed by a doctor, and it should only be things made in the lab. I mean, obviously,
Lab made is always better. Like, I don't get it. I don't know where the argument comes from.
Yeah, no, 100%. We should only engineer things because, I mean, it's like a video game. A video game always comes out 100% perfect, right?
Yeah.
Every
They're
time.
like little worlds,
Yeah, and there's never any issues with them. There's never any like problems that they have to face. Like, behind the scenes, there's never any testing issues or anything like that. They ship them out and they're good to go.
Yeah, did you see that new Call of Duty?
No.
It's great.
That I believe.
Everybody should play it.
Everybody should. Oh, that's another thing is everyone should play the latest Call of Duty.
I always tell my sons, like, play as much as you want,
Yeah, that's, people really shouldn't play video games that much. But if you're going to play video games, you should only play racing games or Call of Duty or sports games.
Dude, people should play video games as much as they want, and soon the world, like, you could probably get a job in a video game, You could just, like, go to work in a video game and then hang out in the video game and then go to bed.
Yeah, and then you don't even have to worry about, like, your real job that you might actually have or lose. At that point, it won't even matter.
Well, no, like, there's going to be real jobs in video games, and you can have that.
So I'll be able to be like a burger guy within a virtual world selling virtual burgers to virtual people that are buying them.
Yeah.
That sounds like a beautiful world and a beautiful society. That sounds like exactly how we should be running it, honestly, is just doing everything virtually. I don't know why we're not all in sacks, just like, in like, to quote the man from Kentucky, in embryonic fluid, just surviving on virtual reality, just like no hair or nothing like that on our bodies. We just have all these like tubes sticking out of us that like have like fluid and water and food going into them, and we just all live like this. Like, why can't we do that? That sounds like an easier way to live, to be honest with you, if we all just lived virtually. And this isn't happening, but like this brings up a good question is, a lot of people think that that's actually how we are living, that this is all just a simulation. That's not true. This is all reality. You are experiencing real shit right now. But yeah. So yeah, video games, the only ones you should play are the ones that come out once a year. And if you are going to play them, let them absorb your life. Nobody should worry about solar flares or celestial events. You've really got nothing to worry about there. If you really had anything to worry about, like, wouldn't the government tell you at that point? Like, you've got nothing to worry about with meteors. The scientists have it all figured out. When something happens, what's going to happen is we're just going to be able to save ourselves and figure it out last minute, as we always do. But not last minute, because they see all this coming 100 miles away. Detoxing doesn't work. You should only, drink whatever you want And you know, why even drink water? There's nothing to it. You know, what's even the point of water?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything even like good in water? Like, there's no sugar, there's no like fat, there's no.
Doesn't taste good.
No, it doesn't taste good at all. It doesn't even have like a taste. Like whenever I drink water, I'm just like, oh, this doesn't make my teeth or my tongue have a tingle or feel
This
good
doesn't
when it
make me
goes down the
happy.
throat. Yeah, this doesn't make me happy at all. This just makes me feel like slightly fuller. Why do you know? The only time I want to feel full is when I eat something. And that's why also fast food and processed food is the best because it makes you feel bloated so you always feel full. So you always feel like you're, you know, you're not hungry. But at the same time, you always want to eat because, you know, processed food is like that. It makes you want to eat more of it. So you're constantly feeling bloated and full, but constantly wanting to eat. Kind of like a really interesting dichotomy. And you should kind of follow your body in that circumstance and just go with it. You know, eat as much as you can when you can.
You never know when you're not gonna be able to eat. Like, what if you get like,
Yeah, think of all the people out there who don't have any food whatsoever. So really what you should be doing is you should be enjoying food every which way you can. Even if that involves eating half of the actual like containers of food and just tossing it out. Like you have that power and you have that option to do that. Like you should it doesn't matter how wasteful you get. You should be able to do that because you live in a free society. So you should remember keep all the lights on, use all the electricity while you can. Use you know eat everything out of the fridge and buy more. Because remember, buying helps the economy. We always want to help the economy. That's our number one mission here is driving forward the economy, and that's always been our number one mission here in America. Always cherish everything that you have, and if anything, you know, you're familiar with wine tastings, right?
hmm I grew up on a vineyard.
Obviously, you know, with wine tastings, they sip the wine and they end up like spitting it out or whatever back into like, you know, buckets or like spittoons or whatever you call those things nowadays. And a lot of it ends up being because they want to, you know, they want to taste the wine. They're not trying to get drunk, they're trying to understand and cherish the wine and they're trying to like just like, you know, take every little bit in, but not like get drunk off of it. They're just trying to enjoy it. I think this is how we should treat food. We should eat as much as we can, but never swallow it. Just, you know, chew it up and then spit it out into the nearest container and devour and enjoy every little bit of the food that you can from everywhere that you can. But, you know, never swallow it because think of how wasteful that is to not be able to fully enjoy that food because you're letting it digest and empty out of you afterwards. It becomes completely worthless afterwards. At least if you spit it out, you know, it becomes something. It stays the beautiful bit of product that it was before. So, you know, a lot of people like to think that there's a structure to the universe. We kind of already went over that one.
I think that people kind of like go crazy trying to think about the universe. People can barely like survive right now,
Yeah,
and I think that's just gonna keep freaking people out. So I think it's you got to focus on your life, focus on your job, focus on your family,
yeah.
you know, and that's just how things are. Like you got it. We're just surviving now.
Yeah. Focus on building your relationship with AI too, because, you know, nothing bad is ever going to come of AI. It's going to be a valuable and useful tool that will enhance our creativity and not make us stagnant as a society. It'll do beautiful things for us and it'll really, it'll make us cherish, you know, everything that we have and everything that we've had. We won't miss any time before AI. I assure you that. I've got quite an interesting one too. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think one of the things that we should do is we should invade Great Britain.
We should invade Great Britain.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been thinking of is that, you know, we should invade Great Britain. We should teach them kind of a lesson about like what happened back in like, you know, the 1700s and then they came back in the 1800s and kind of tried to, you know, they burned our White House down and did all this crazy shit. Now that their, you know, their leader's dead and
I say we invade Great Britain.
yes. we invade Great Britain and we take it over. We teach them to speak English the right way, and we tell them to figure it out. We actually, now that they're crippled by their leader dying, we can take them over. We can take control back from Great Britain. And why wouldn't we want to have it? We need something over in Europe to keep us grounded. We don't know what's happening over the Atlantic Ocean. If we were to have Canada as our 51st state, like our government is saying that we should do, and if we were to say hypothetically control Mexico and Greenland, that's cool. That's all of North America secured. But what's going on over in Europe? So what I'm thinking is that we invade Great Britain and we take control of that entire, UK island, the whole United Kingdom. We just take control of all of it.
What about Ireland? I'm just wondering what you want to do with Ireland.
Well, we take control of Ireland too, obviously. Really, anything within that vicinity we take control of. If the French try to help the British, which I highly doubt that they would try to help the British. I mean, come on, they're the French, right? They're not going to help the British. Long-standing rivalries and feuds. The French and the British hate each other, so obviously they're not going to try to help them. Which would actually be the best strategy, because if we were hypothetically, say, going to invade France instead of Great Britain, the British would probably try to help the French. But if we invade Great Britain, the French aren't probably going to help the British. They're not like reciprocal like that. What's going to happen is the French are going to let us invade a few other countries until it becomes a problem for them, and then they're going to fight back. I think this would probably be our best strategy to really just take control of a piece of Europe and have that missile defense system set up so we have like just a gigantic golden dome. So that if anything were to happen, we can immediately deflect it from the Pacific Ocean over in like Alaska and Mexico, the Baja Peninsula, all that can bang out those rockets, or Hawaii or whatever. But then over here in the Atlantic Ocean, we got nothing crossing the Atlantic from that way because we got Great Britain and possibly France and whatever else, whatever other country, would want to be ruled by the U.S. too. What do you think? Does that sound like a good idea?
Hasn't the weather been pretty crazy lately?
No, the weather's been completely normal, dude.
It just seems pretty out there, but like I don't know.
And people keep talking about how the British government have like this weather changing program called Satan. That doesn't exist. Why would they call it Satan, even if it is an acronym for something? Yeah, all this weather changing shit.
Religious people can be pretty paranoid sometimes.
Well, 100%, dude. And how about all this like weather changing stuff? Nothing can change the weather. Only God can change the weather, which we established does not actually exist unless the state-sponsored religion says it does.
For people like believe in God so much, you'd think that they'd like pipe down and just calm down.
Yeah, if God exists, then stop talking about him. He'll figure it out.
Right?
Yeah.
We're trying to make a country work.
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out down here. You've got it all figured out up there. We got this. We'll work together at that point. We'll meet you in the middle, space. I think weather changing, though, and manipulation, people gotta chill out with all that shit. There's no such thing as weather manipulation.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as weather warfare. We have not been able to manipulate weather in our, we have not been able to manipulate the weather in our favor during warfare at all. Completely for the last hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we wouldn't have figured out at this point how to make it, even better utilized, because the only person that can manipulate the weather is God. But there's not all these programs that people are talking about where they're talking about dropping dry ice by the tons into like the eye of hurricanes in order to like beef up the hurricane or change its direction or its, veracity or whatever. It's all a bunch of hoopla. This doesn't happen. There's nothing called Project Cirrus or Project Stormforge. There's nothing you got to worry about in that like area.
Yeah, it sounds like a comic book.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Stormforge, what is that? Like Thor? Isn't he got like the Stormforge hammer or whatever? No, total comic book stuff. Total
Speaking
hoopla.
of, have you seen that new Marvel movie?
Yeah, I did see the new Thunderbolts movie. It was amazing. It's probably one of the only movies you should watch because it really details how the government is looking out for you.
There's always somebody who's gonna like take up the torch of saving every.
Yeah, that's just how it always works. There's never going to be a point where the world's ending and then everyone is looking for a hero and that hero is not there. There'll always be a hero to save the day. Always. There's never any doubt about that.
And I will be your hero, baby.
I will take away the pain. You can take my breath away. I love that song. There's nothing to it. There's never going to be like a time where we have to even rely on a knight in shining armor to come and save us because we're never going to get into that much trouble. The world is just going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And that's just all there is to it. We're good, you know? Everything is good. We're all good. Life is great, and you all have nothing to worry about. If you see a mushroom cloud, what you should really just do is just chill out.
You should probably get under your table.
Yeah, get under your table. That is actually one of the most effective ways. They told us that in the 60s, that's the most effective way to survive a nuclear explosion. Your entire building might be just wiped out in one foul swoop, but at least the table that you're under will be still standing. That building will be gone and it'll be a pile of rubble, but that table, it'll be good. What they'll be able to do is they'll be able to fish out your body in a few days after the radiation poisoning and all that is kicked in and the fallout. They'll be able to fish out your body if it's alive or dead from starvation or radiation sickness. And they'll be able to kick you back into gear and help you survive for another year or two until, all of the everything that happened catches up. But you'll be good. We don't think any of that's going to happen. There won't ever be nukes flying around and used in any sort of, warfare scenario. All the nukes is really just to make us feel safe. Don't you feel safer knowing that there's nuclear bombs out there?
Yeah, like the fact that like everybody has bombs, like, well, certain people. The fact that certain people have these bombs ensures that they'll never be used because
Exactly.
if anybody uses it, then we're all going to use it, and then that's just like the end of everything. And nobody would want that.
Yeah, nobody would want that. Nobody has any kind of beliefs that are considered very like self-righteous or willing to test out the limits of the end of the world in order to further their own agendas. There's nobody out there that are like that at all. That's why it's good that we have nuclear bombs in the possession of all these countries that are really, or at least the most in possession of these certain countries that really know how to handle them and know how to take control of any other countries that want to rise up with them. It's actually probably one of the better things that could happen is that, all of these countries have these massive amounts of them in order to keep each other in line. Because if one of them just had them and he was just lobbing like nukes all over the place, then, what would happen is we would all be dead. So it's good that everybody has them. Like you said, it's like mutually assured destruction. If that's it, if one person does it, then we're all done.
So that's never going to happen.
So it's never going to happen. It's it's also what's never happened is we've never experienced any close, encounters or close problems in relation to like transporting nukes. We've never lost any. They're all accounted for.
Again, these are experts on this.
Well, exactly. They've never lost any whatsoever. They've never dropped them in the ocean. They've never had any close calls where, like a warship was going to take out like a Russian fleet by accident or something like that. And then it could have triggered World War III and like nukes to drop or like a nuke to like come near like the Russian border or something like that. We've never had anything like that happen, so it's never gonna happen, obviously. And if it did happen, don't you think that they would tell us about it all the time and they would try to ram it down our throats that all of these crazy accidents that could have potentially led to the end of the world, did happen or came close to happening? Well, of course they would. They want us to know everything that we can to stay self-assured. Let's see. Nuclear energy is bullshit, and we should just stick to oil and gas and all the simple things. Same thing with green energy. Why do we even need green energy? Like what, you know, think about the term green. When someone says you feeling green, isn't that like a term of like a derogatory like thing on people, like basically saying that they're feeling like kind of shitty. So like why would we want to like go green with our energy? Like that basically sounds to
Yeah,
me like we want to go shitty with our energy. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. Or like green aliens, like how aliens are green, little green men.
yeah. Yeah, most of them are actually gray. They don't even exist, but
Oh,
according to accounts, they're
on
actually gray.
behind the thread. Originally, they would want behind the thread, behind the veil. Originally, they wanted people to think they were little green aliens, or call them that because they weren't little green aliens. They were like tall grays or sometimes
Yeah.
short grays. Little green aliens didn't exist.
Little green men.
Exactly. The CIA doesn't want people to think about grays, the most likely actual alien.
Yeah, I mean, well, they don't exist. That's why the CIA doesn't want us to think about them, obviously. I mean, they
Yes.
don't want us to think about any of the alien possible creatures that could be out there, like the reptilians, the greys,
The
the
CIA is out here making sure that we don't waste our time.
well, exactly. Like who needs to know about the Anunnaki or the Pleiadians or like their potential war that they had. I mean that's all a bunch of bullshit. Like there really has not been like an intergalactic war going on for the past few hundred years in order to control the entirety of really just the spiritual nature of planet Earth. And you should really just not even think about anything like that. I mean that's just a bunch of crazy nonsense. We weren't genetically engineered. We came directly from, there were a few like different versions of us, like different like Homo sapien type creatures, but what really we just came directly from the monkey. There was nothing else, and there was no genetic engineering or nothing like that on society. Really, it was all up to God, who doesn't actually exist.
I like how it's just like the way they talk, like the way that we're portraying, that at least you're portraying is like so contradictory within itself, like within the thing you're trying to say, that like somebody just has to like get hypnotized by what you're saying to the point they're like, okay, like they have to be brain dead,
Yeah, exactly.
sedated, you know.
That's the vibe that I'm going for too. Basically, like some like it's like taking you down the rabbit hole and then just snapping you back with like basically like a rubber band, if that makes sense. All right, what's another good one? None of the presidents are related, and it really is not one big club. I mean, why would you even think that? Like, you know, none of all the presidents are related. They're not related whatsoever. There's no secret meetings behind closed doors. There's none of that. There's no secret societies. We kind of talked about this before, but I'm more relating this to the idea that like all the presidents are not related. The only ones that are really related are like the Bushes, and there were a couple other ones that were slightly related going back. But really, none of them are a part of like a chain or a certain bloodline or anything like that. They're not a part of some secret society like the Freemasons or the Skull and Bones or anything like that. As I said previously, the Skull and Bones is just a fraternity, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything negative for your life. You may think that it breeds political actors or like these crazy people that retain power and do all these crazy things to you that influence your life on a day-to-day basis, but really that's just a bunch of nonsense. They don't do anything. They just drink, and as we've stated in a previous episode, they try to get laid with each other.
Yeah, people are freaks.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
their right though.
That's what it comes down to. People are freaks, but there's no deeper conspiracy going on. They're just a weird fraternity that are
And
just
it's
trying to
none of
get
your
their freak
business.
on. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just let them do what they want to do. If the Bushes want to like do weird freaky stuff together, that's their prerogative. You know what I mean? You should not judge any of the Bushes for all the weird freaky stuff that they do all together in weird freaky ways and all their reptilian weird shit that they do on the side. You shouldn't judge any of it, and because none of it actually exists. They don't do any weird shit on the side. They're not part of some weird deep state cult within the CIA and the government. I
Yeah.
mean, why would anyone think that? There's no evidence even to suggest that they had anything to do with the JFK assassination, so why would anyone even suggest that? Why even bring it up? People like to ask, like, where was George H.W. Bush on the day of Dallas? Well, I mean, I think there was a picture of him in Dallas, but he wasn't there. He kept telling people that he wasn't there. He kept telling people that he wasn't there. So I believe him. I believe when somebody tells me something, you know what I mean? What do they call that? I give people plausible deniability. None of those guys are like doing anything crazy or related to anything. The Bushes weren't involved in the Nazis and did not supply or were not involved in the company that helped supply the Nazis with their gas that they used in concentration camps. None of that was a thing. Prescott Bush was not on the board of IG Farben, which was that exact same company. It's like people like to think all these weird, wacky ideas, but it's really not that crazy. It's not that big of a picture, you know.
Yeah.
It's all the people in the first couple world wars were not all related. I mean, why would they be? They hated each other, right? Why would they get into a world war if they were all like first and second cousins?
They're from different countries. How would they be related?
Yeah, exactly. They were all royalty from different countries. How could they even possibly be related or cousins or anything like that? It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. What else? What else? What are some other good ones? What are some other good truths?
Wasn't it crazy how much Jack Ruby didn't like Lee Harvey Oswald?
Yeah, well, he shot him. Yeah, he didn't like him a lot. He didn't like him enough where he shot him. And it's weird because they're totally unrelated to each other. So it's so odd that he would go and he would shoot him. But he must have felt so strongly about JFK
Yeah.
that he liked JFK that Jack Ruby felt like he had to shoot him. Even though JFK utterly hated the mafia which Jack Ruby worked for, it's so amazing that Jack Ruby felt so strongly about JFK's death that he would go and he would kill Lee Harvey Oswald. Like that right there takes a lot of principles in how you feel in order to go and do that. Like he must have loved JFK a lot, regardless of what JFK was saying about the mafia. He must have felt so much pain when JFK died. That's kind of commendable. You know what I mean? If I could, I would commend Jack Ruby for that. Didn't Jack Ruby die shortly after that too? I forgot. I would have commended him for that because it took a lot to really get to that level to to defend our president in that way. Jack Ruby could have even been considered a national hero to some people. Not to me, but to some people, he would maybe be considered a national hero for doing that to Lee Harvey Oswald, so that Lee Harvey Oswald could not say what he was thinking or doing on that day. Like,
I was gonna say, like, we're pretty lucky that that happened. You know what I mean? Like, what if what if he got away?
yeah, what if he got away with it because he wasn't actually connected to it like that? But he was connected to it. We know that for a fact, so he wouldn't have gotten away. So, but either way, you're right. What if he did get away? Or what if he just rotted in jail for the rest of his life and he was just able to give interviews about what happened for the rest of his life and was able to talk about what happened?
Oh yeah, we don't want to.
We don't want to give him any press.
We don't want to like re-victimize anyone.
Well, exactly. We don't want to re-victimize JFK every few years and bring up his death every couple of years. Like that would just be awful to do to JFK and put him on a pedestal like that. We should never do that. Like he was not a martyr. He was just a person that died because another person felt very strongly against his life, which is a very awful thing. But yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald was a terrible human being, and we got to thank Jack Ruby for snuffing out that terrible, awful, awful human being while he could, while right before that guy could be really just like testify before anything really. You know what I mean? He wasn't able to really give his full side of the story before that happened. He only thing that we got about this guy is like what? Didn't he have like a journal or something like that that someone turned into a book? I think I read it in middle school, but it's like we only have like these little things here and there. He didn't really get a chance to speak of what happened, and it's kind of amazing because that should have been the way it was, because we know what happened. We know Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman on that day, and that there was no other people involved in that. It was just Lee Harvey Oswald alone on his own, and it's amazing because he was able to.
How bouncy bullets are.
Well, exactly. Like that magic bullet theory. It is true. Like bullets, just like they go all kinds of weird, different directions when they can.
That
And
bullet probably bounced off of like, I don't know, 10 different buildings before it hit him. But that's just like how things are.
that's how Lee Harvey Oswald was. Is he was like this expert sharpshooter, like Hawkeye. So he would have bounced things off of everything and completely just like was able to nail things at like such crazy, you know what I mean? Like almost Captain America type angles. He would have.
About that.
Yeah, you've heard about that too. That he was
Yeah.
just an expert sharpshooter. So everything made sense about this killing. Like he was such a good sharpshooter in the army that he was commended for how good of a sharpshooter he was. But yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald was a terrible, terrible person, and it's a good thing he was killed. Same thing with Jeffrey Epstein. We talked about this on the last episode, that it's a good thing that Jeffrey Epstein was killed, and it's kind of the same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald. All these people with incredible. Oh, sorry, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't killed. He committed suicide. I should reiterate that so nobody gets confused by what I just said. Lee Harvey Oswald, same thing. He should have, I guess it worked out because he was actually killed before he could say anything about what happened. It all worked out. And everybody that is involved in situations like this, I don't want them to take the easy way out. I want some. Nah, I should probably not say this. This is kind of crazy. Yeah. Well, what's another one? What's another thing? Uh, you know, we kind of went over this last time, but I did want to reiterate that scalar waves do not exist. A lot of people think that scalar waves exist, and for those that don't know, scalar waves are basically just like
A whole bunch of bullshit.
yeah, it's a whole bunch of bullshit, but in layman's terms, it's like your brain waves, and that certain levels of like sound waves can affect your brain waves, and that you can actually you can actually read people's minds and get all of these like psychic effects from reading these scalar waves basically. And yeah, it's a whole bunch of bullshit. Like you can't use crystals with them. You can't imprint any kind of psychic effect on these crystals. They don't emit any kind of energy. There's nothing like that. You shouldn't even be next to a crystal. And like we said on the last episode, if you are next to a crystal and it's emitting all this energy, isn't that bad for you? Like, should you really be around that kind of energy? Do you want to stick your head in a microwave?
Right. Like, how do you know it's safe?
Exactly. It's a bunch of bullshit, but it's also it's a bunch of crazy bullshit. Why would you want to do that? You're crazy if you want to even think about activating your third eye or having any kind of psychic intuition. That's just a bunch of crazy nonsense that you should not even attempt to get into because, well, what's going to happen to you is you're probably just going to go crazy if you're not already. Leave it to the government, no matter what it is. If it's crazy, if it's not crazy, if it's anywhere in between, just leave it to the government. And if they tell you it's for you, then you take it and you shut up. That's all you got to do. So I know we talked earlier about how like they tested drugs on civilians, but one thing that you should also understand is that there was no MK Ultra or Project Monarch. It's a bunch of crazy nonsense. It's, you know, people that say they got abducted by the government and were forced to try drugs by these these crazy prostitutes that were catching people in compromising situations. It was a bunch of nonsense. That wasn't actually happening. The government was actually just giving drugs to people and letting them try them. It was like a drug test, but like the good kind of drug test that the kind that when you hear it, you're happy you're hearing it, not the kind that you're like, ooh, that sounds bad. No, this is like a drug test where you're like, ooh, I get to try out some drugs and the government's going to do it for me. This is great. You know what I mean? Everybody was happy in this situation. You know what I mean? They never made you fall out the window or start firing guns on military bases because they were giving these random soldiers these LSD treatments on military bases and doing all this crazy shit to them. There was nothing like that. Like people need to get it out of their head. All these celebrities that are being worshipped, rightfully so, and are in power, so to speak, in their positions, they all were there because of hard work and they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and they really did what they had to do. Like all these celebrities, they were skilled in what they could do. There was no brainwashing or programming or anything like that. There's no subtle connections to any deep state government bad actors or anything like that. It's just a coincidence that Amy Schumer's related to Chuck Schumer, the head of the Democrats, basically. It's all really just a coincidence, any of this stuff, and you really shouldn't even think too deeply into it. Really, that's all of this is it's just a big coincidence. That's really just what life is. And if anything seems just even slightly out of the ordinary, just take it like it is. It's a coincidence.